This video is brought to you by RV360 Solutions, where we're bringing the RV industry full circle by providing inspections, consulting, and training. Okay, today we're going to take a look at how to troubleshoot a powered awning. So this motor would be compatible with a Solera powered awning, same thing that's on my Grand Design Reflection 303 RLS. And I just did this little setup to kind of show you really how simple these things are. So what you've got is a motor, a switch that's going to have, some kind of extend and retract in and out, something like that on there. We're going to have an inline fuse, and we're going to have a battery. And then, of course, the wires that connect it. So it's actually a very simple system, but when you hit this button and nothing happens, people get a little bit frustrated, I think, and troubleshooting these, I guess, can be a little bit complicated. So what complicates it the most is this switch. So this switch has 4 terminals on it, and then it's got these 2 little jumper wires. Let me get something I can point with here a little bit. So this terminal is connected to this terminal via that jumper, and then this terminal connected to this terminal via that jumper. So on some of these powered awnings, you're going to see 6 terminals, and really all they're doing is taking this wire and jumping across here at some point down the line. It doesn't have to happen right at the switch. So the center 2 terminals are always going to go out to our motor, and then the outside terminals, whether you have 2 or 4, are going to be the power coming in. So on this particular one, we're going to have either positive or negative. It really doesn't matter. The only reason that matters is to get, the retract and extend correct. So if it's backwards, all you actually have to do is reverse these 2. And we're going to hook this all up, and I'm going to show you how this works, and then we're going to do a little bit of troubleshooting. So again, these 2 are going to go out to our motor. These 2 are coming in from our battery, and that's all there is to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this switch mounted just to make it a little bit easier. But remember, it's going to be these 2 wires that are going up to our motor harness, and these 2 wires that are ultimately going to go to our battery. So let me get this set down on here, and I'll come right back. Okay, so we're back. So I've got my switch mounted, and again, these top 2 terminals, we can follow this wire around. We're going through a switch here, through this inline fuse, and we're connected to my battery. And we're going to prove this voltage here in a little bit. And then those center 2 terminals are coming around, going to my awning motor. So now theoretically, I got my power on, connected to a battery, and when I hit extend or retract, this motor is going to turn in one direction, and then it's going to turn the other direction. So let me start by proving to you how we're reversing this motor. All we're doing is reversing the positive and negative. So I'm going to unplug my motor from the wiring harness, and I'm just going to connect the jumper to my battery. And so first step for a lot of us in troubleshooting is going to be, hey, is this motor working? Getting to the switch, sometimes the back of the switch can be kind of difficult, where getting to this motor, usually, there's a cover over it, but usually you can get to this connector, unplug it fairly easily. So first step for me in troubleshooting when, I have no power, obviously I'm going to check my fuse first. My fuse is good. I'm going to check to see if I have 12 volts coming to my motor. So plugged into my battery, and I'm going to connect my positive there and just touch my negative, and we're going to see this motor, and it's turning in a clockwise direction, right? So now I'm just going to reverse these 2, and now it's turning counterclockwise. So that's proof that all we're doing to reverse this motor is reversing the polarity coming from our battery. So that makes this really simple. So again, first step for me, after I verified the fuse is good, I'm coming up to my motor and I'm just going to take a jumper, and does my motor turn? And then I'm going to reverse this. Does my motor turn the opposite direction? So the answer is yes. So I just verified that my motor is good. So yeah, having a nice handy little set of jumpers and a 12-volt battery is really handy for troubleshooting, and I carry that stuff in my RV with me all the time. All right, so now I'm gonna, working on my RV, I'm gonna plug my wiring harness back in, and just for the heck of it, I'm gonna go inside and flip my switch just to see if maybe, moving this wiring harness around a little bit made this thing work. It didn't. It really would work right now, but so yep, still a problem. So now I want to go to the switch. I'm going to have to pull this out of that panel that it's in, and I want to be careful, where these wires are. It's really easy to figure out where they go, but if we can pull the switch out without disconnecting them, it's going to make life much easier. So now I'm going to take this little tester. A meter works just fine. I just don't happen to have my meter handy, and I have this tester handy. So what I really like about this tester is I have to have power, and it has to be the same power source, that's powering the circuit I'm testing, but it's got a built-in meter. Now, if I touch my positive, let me see if I can get over here, it's gonna turn on this little light next to the positive, and it's gonna tell me my voltage. So anywhere I have positive, so if I wanted to troubleshoot this fuse, I can check to see that I have positive. So my positive is my red wire coming into the top right here. So theoretically, when I touch that terminal, it's going to say battery voltage positive. Now what I really like about this is when I touch negative or ground, I get my green light over here, but I get an audible signal. So I can go around and check my ground all over the place, and I don't really have to worry about seeing what's on the screen. So now, theoretically, if my wiring harness is good, I've got my ground right there, and I've got my battery positive right there. So I just verified that the battery's good, my fuse is good. If there's a switch somewhere in between, that's turned on. My wiring harness is good up to my switch. So again, really simple test. I've got my positive and my negative at either the upper or lower terminals. And again, remember, these just have a simple jumper across there. So if I touch the terminal that would be straight down from here, it's negative on the top, and down here you can see it's positive, and that's because, again, we have that jumper wire going across. And then if I could get to the one over here, I could prove, but we already saw that on the switch. So here's where the troubleshooting is really going to make this interesting, because when I flip my switch either up or down, all I'm doing is sending voltage from these top two terminals to these middle two terminals, and that's going to go out to my motor. So let me just break this right here by unplugging this. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to test the operation of the switch. So when I flip this switch in either direction, I should be transferring my voltage from these top two terminals to these middle two. The polarity of the voltage is going to change depending on whether I hit, extend or retract. So again, we've got negative here. So if I go down to these middle ones, notice there's nothing going on right now. If I flip the switch up, so this would be retract, I get my positive. So what I just did is I sent the positive voltage to the red wire over here. So right now I'm connecting red to red, and that's for retract. And again, let me get this on here and prove it again. For some reason I can't seem to get it on there. So when I come over to this side and I hit retract, we get our negative. So that tells me that the switch is good when I hit retract. So now let me go back over to this one, and I'm going to hit extend. And so anytime you're troubleshooting, you should try and predict what you're going to get. So if I got my positive coming over here and my negative coming over here in retract, I should get just the opposite with extend. So when I hit extend, I expect to see my negative here and my positive here. All right, so let's just prove that. So I'm going to go over to this side, and I have negative. And when I go over to this side, I have my positive. All right, so what I just did is I proved that my battery's good, my fuse is good, my switch is on, and I have power going through this switch, and it works in both directions. So now it's entirely possible that there's some kind of short, broken wire in the harness going from my switch all the way out to my awning. And remember, this wire is running up, the hardware of that awning, easy for it to get pinched in there. So before I plug my motor back in, I'm going to come over here. Now, I don't know for sure which of these is connected to positive or negative here, and it really doesn't matter because I'm just going to pick any one. So I should expect nothing when I'm not pushing a switch. Now if I hit retract, that's my negative, and when I hit extend, that's my positive. All right, now I can verify that the other wire is good, and I should get just the opposite. So when I hit retract, I get positive, and when I hit extend, I get my negative. All right, so what I just did now by testing it here is I proved that everything up to that point is good. So if I got that far and I maybe haven't tested my motor yet, but if when I plug this back in my motor's not working, that just tells me that there's something going on after this connector. But let's just go ahead and plug this back in, and now we hit retract, and it's going counterclockwise, and I hit extend, and it's going clockwise. All right, so let me turn this switch off. So by turning this switch off, all I'm doing is cutting my positive side. So if I come over here, I still have my negative, but I don't have my positive. So if I'm trying to troubleshoot this, and the reason I put this switch in here is just to make it look like I have a blown fuse, right? So even though my fuse is good, I didn't want to have to pull that fuse out and mess with it for troubleshooting purposes. So I killed my positive side right here, right? Because I have no positive. And if I were to turn this back on, my positive is back. So this is what it's going to look like if we're trying to troubleshoot this system and we have a blown fuse. First thing I'm going to do is, well, I could come all the way over to here if I've got the cover off my motor and I have this out there. And I can pick either side, and I can have somebody in the RV hit the switch. So when I go retract, I get nothing. When I hit extend, I get my negative. So what that tells me is somewhere along the line I don't have my positive. It could still be in this wiring harness. So we're going to reverse this by going here, and when I hit retract, now I get my negative on that side, and I don't get anything. So I should be getting my positive when I hit extend. So basically what that tells me is both of the wires are good in here because all I'm doing is reversing the polarity. So I just tested both of these wires, but I still didn't see a positive. So now I can come back and I can go to my switch and I can test my positive here, and I get nothing, which tells me that it's somewhere down the line and we're going for it's probably this fuse. At that point, yeah, I'm going to pull that fuse out, test the fuse, maybe just pop in a new one, pop in my new fuse, same as turning that on, and there's my positive. So again, just to kind of recap, very simple system. I've got 12 volts coming from my battery, going through a fuse, going through this switch, which is just essentially flipping my positive and negative depending on whether I hit extend or retract, going out to the wiring harness that goes up to my awning motor, and I have my awning motor. Now, believe it or not, of this whole system, probably the most common failure is this motor. Sure, you could have a dead battery, sure, you could have a blown fuse, but what I've found is this is the only part of the system that's sitting out in the elements. It can get rain in there, get water down in that motor. This is really the only part that's doing any kind of work. Sure, we're flipping the switch, but how often do we do that? So I typically will check my fuse. If my fuse is good, I'm going to this motor just because I know I can easily get to this connector. I can check it. I can take my little battery up on my ladder with me, immediately test this motor. So again, we're just in and out, and it's just that simple. Now, one other thing I want to show you is this little nut right here. So on your awning, so this motor is going to be, kind of standing up, and this is going to be up towards the top. So worst case scenario, we're packing up, we're getting ready to leave. I go to put the awning in, and it does nothing. All I got to do is take a little socket with a drill, not a drill driver. I don't want any kind of impact on this, but I can just take that socket with a drill. I can spin this, and I can, get that awning to come back in. So yeah, I can always get this awning back in, and then I can take care of this troubleshooting later. So that's it. It's a very simple system. Again, very few components. The switch is what throws most people off. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.